I want to say everyone, but I think, we got 5, 6 people together.
But can't see.
Yeah, but this is fine. This is fine. Actually, less than expected, but still, we can have a chat here, right? Faisal, thank you very much. It's great, to have you here, today. Mo as well, right? Mo is like, a Istanbul fan, so he comes, every month, so that's why.
I'm a local.
Yeah, you're a local, obviously. Faisal, I think, let's start, from how did you start? What is your background, for everyone here? What did you do, before further, and what led you, to the further, and what did you do in further ventures, right?
Absolutely, happy to. First of all, thank you for inviting me here. It's a pleasure to be here and to speak to you all. I started my career working in some of Abu Dhabi's investment firms, such as Mubadala and ADQ. And in between, I was a founder of companies on my own. Before launching further, I was working with ADQ, where we were looking at how can we incubate new companies to solve for problems. The two problems that we worked on, one was banking for SMEs, and hence we worked on a plan to create a digital bank called Wamo Bank. And the CEO built a team and the company, and today Wamo Bank is becoming a leading company, leading bank in the region. Second thing we worked on was to launch a company that can optimize the power grid by leveraging Bitcoin mining. So we looked at how can we supplement the power grid by creating a Bitcoin mining facility. And that has worked out to be quite well because we're able to create about 500 megawatts of mining capacity live in Abu Dhabi. This acts as a supplement to the power grid. So that experience led us to go deeper into the world of blockchain and digital assets. And going down that rabbit hole made us learn a lot more about what are other gaps that exist in the market. So we decided in 2022 to launch an investment platform called Further Asset Management that would be building and investing in the space. So far it's been about 3 years since we launched the platform. We have about 22 companies in our portfolio, all within the realm of the future of finance and capital markets, focusing on B2B infra, areas such as payments, lending, wealth management, tokenization, and we're proud backers of Fuse. So we met Fuse in 2022, and we've been part of their journey ever since. And we're also very proud that they're able to take a bold step early on to come to Turkey. So they launched an office here. They have a team that's present. And we're here because we want to expand our business here.
Amazing. Mo, you're a local, but let me start with your background, right? Now you were in a bank, but not like a traditional way. I remember, and then you work for a big payment company, and then we founded Fuse, backed by Further Ventures. How was the journey, and what are you guys doing with Fuse right now?
Yeah, thank you, Deniz, and great to be here. So, as he mentioned, my background is in fintech and payments for the last 15 years or so. And in my last role, we did a lot of card-based payments, acquiring and everything else. We really saw that blockchain and digital assets and crypto were starting to be used by some of the biggest fintechs and banks globally, right? So Visa, MasterCard, Citibank. We saw lots of movement in the US, European markets also, but there was no single B2B API infrastructure provider across MENA, Turkey, and Africa, right? So our goal as Fuse is basically to power all existing platforms with stablecoin and crypto capabilities, allow them to build different use cases on top. It can be a full trading engine, it can be stablecoin payments or just custody or liquidity. And really we think of ourselves as banking and fintech in the front and crypto in the back. Today, 3 years later, we have about 500 customers globally, mix of regulated fintechs, banks, financial institutions, and businesses as well. We have 9 licenses now globally. Very excited to be here in Turkey. We think Turkey is the 4th biggest crypto market globally. Customers use stablecoins and cryptocurrencies here for many different reasons, and we're very happy to be here. And all the conversations that we have with large businesses, with cross-border companies, with banks, fintechs. Everyone's looking at stablecoins and digital assets as their next wave of growth.
Let me continue with you, right? How big is the team? Plus, how do you see, Turkey and Turkish, the opportunity, in Turkey? Plus, of course, you have a chance, to look at, the cross-border opportunities as well.
Yeah, so we started 3 years ago with 3 people. Now we have about 110 people globally. We have offices in several markets. Really, from a growth perspective, the stablecoin and the payment side specifically grew about 400% in 2025. So we saw a huge amount of growth, all coming by demand, right? So what we always say is that you can send a SWIFT payment from London to New York, and it takes 3 hours. If you try and send a SWIFT payment as a business, especially as a small business, anywhere in emerging markets, it can take 3 days, 5 days, 7 days. Most of our currencies are not stable, so you have FX risk, high costs, and everything. So people in the US and in European markets talk about stablecoins a lot, but they're really used a lot here, right? So they're used by consumers to hedge against their currencies. They're used for businesses, for cross-border trade, for earning yield, for also protecting their own treasury. And so businesses and consumers in our markets are inherently using digital assets and stablecoin today. So our goal really is to take all of that informal economy, stopping people from going to the Grand Bazaar, going to other places, and using a fully regulated platform to be able to buy, hold, and sell stablecoins, to be able to send and receive, earn yield, and all those wonderful features and value propositions that blockchain provides.
Amazing. Faisal, so you actually, you guys, made, a great thing, great things, founded, the Fuse, 20, almost, 20 companies, with, the first fund, right? Now, second fund is coming. How do you see the key areas, the potentials, for further, for the next, 2-3 years?
So from our side, our thematic focus of the fund is looking at the future of finance and capital markets. We focus on use cases that a bank or asset management firm would want to adopt. We remain agnostic of what's going to be the underlying technology that's going to enable this new product. We keep an open view of the market, and we think about the market in 5-year cycles that coincides with our fund's investment period. So for the past 4 years or so, we're looking at areas such as digital assets, fintech, AI, data, and also how the three converge together over time. Looking at portfolio in Fund 1, it's been about 70% in blockchain, 30% in fintech AI. Now with Fund 2 that we launched last month, we're looking at what's going to be the biggest trends, what are the thematic areas where we have high conviction in over the next 5 years. And so far we're keeping an open view to say, a third could be from blockchain, a third from AI, and a third from data and market infrastructure. And in terms of key trends that we're keeping an eye out is, in the blockchain space, is looking at the tokenization of real assets. We've been talking about tokenization for the past 5-8 years, and we've seen many attempts and examples with some traction here and there. We've seen the market for tokenized assets go from about 10 billion to 30 billion over the past year or two, so there has been growth. But we believe that there are some systematic gaps that are hindering the scaling of assets going on chain. And we think these are mainly structural and legal. So today, while a lot of solutions provide the technology, they're missing the legal foundation to enable 24/7 trading and to allow the large banks to come in. We believe that in this cycle, today in 25-26, the market's attention has shifted a bit from retail and speculation to looking at use cases that TradFi institutions want to adopt. The big question is what's going to be the role of retail down the road. We believe, like Mo said, that everyone will use digital assets, blockchain, but it's going to be in the back end. It's going to power, the flow of capital in terms of trading and transfer and so forth. But people won't be thinking of digital assets the way that we have been in the past. So now that TradFi is in, and all the major banks globally are looking at use cases, we believe that some of the structural gaps will be solved for, and we believe that we're going to see a 10x volume increase of tokenized assets going on chain. And we're thinking about what are the picks and shovels, what are the tools that will allow for this market to happen. So this is an area that we're keeping a close eye on, because we do believe that not only assets will be tokenized, but also markets will run 24/7. NASDAQ, all the major banks are headed towards that direction. Then on the AI front, we're looking at use cases that go beyond just the models and wrappers. We look at areas where AI can play a significant role in making a workflow more efficient. This, for example, could include rewiring the back office of a hedge fund that needs to reconcile trade transactions. Because it's not just about the model, it's about the legal implications. It's about the workflows internally within the firm. These firms can't risk, they have a very low risk tolerance, and hence they would not want to attempt to do anything alone. So in these cases, we believe that there'll be companies that step in to solve the problems. And like I said, as a VC fund, we always keep an open mind as to what could be the next enabling technology. As with a lot of cases in the past, technologies can take decades to evolve. You can start off with research, but you see these cases evolve over time. I'm personally very fascinated about quantum, keeping a track of what's happening in the space from a technology point of view. I don't think there's anything that can be done in the foreseeable future from an investment point of view, besides looking at how to quantum-proof our systems. But I think just like blockchain, just like AI, we'll start to see use cases that emerge that we could not have been able to think of before. So that's also an area that I'm quite interested in.
Yeah, especially the quantum security is becoming something really important. Mo, so I know many founders, but you are one of the best, right? So why? Because what happens with Mo takes me sometimes from Dubai, another morning from Bahrain, and the evening from London, and then suddenly San Francisco, and he asks many things and we talk, right? This is how we operate. And AI comes to our world, and it's changing. And there are tons of companies that we can discuss also with Faisal from investment standpoint. But you have this company. It's a very technologically advanced company. But AI is here. Are you going to become a AI native company or AI decorative company?
AI decorative. Yeah, look, I think you cannot ignore AI, right? I think if I ask, it'd be interesting, how many people here use AI on a daily basis in their jobs, right? Yeah, everyone. So I have it open on my phone. I have it open on my screen on a daily basis. ChatGPT and Claude both for different reasons. And whoever doesn't make me upset on that day, right? Because I end up fighting with all my agents these days. So in Infuse, 81% of our code written last month was done by a machine. We have a development team about 30, 35 people, executing at the size of a team about 75 people, right? And a lot of this is because of AI. And we have multiple checkers to make sure that the code that comes out, we're actually now developing agents to actually check the code that AI is actually doing before it comes to a person to check, right? So we're building all these things in. There's a lot of talk about agentic payments also. Everyone's talking about this. Coinbase is very big on this topic. We believe that agentic payments are going to come, but the way that they're going to come will be very different. It's not going to be for shopping at Zara online. People are using it for very small transactions, and they're doing it on stablecoin also, because you want to give one agent the ability to do one task and give it a payment credential on that. You cannot give everybody a Visa card or a MasterCard. Doesn't make sense. But we believe that all that stuff is still maybe 12 to 24 months out. Right now, where we use this stuff a lot is on risk and compliance. So we build our own risk and compliance engine called Athena. And within Athena, the goal for us is to be able to onboard individual or a business customer in 90 seconds from anywhere across the world. So this is the target that the team has to deliver by December, obviously taking into account the regulations from every local market, right? So onboarding a customer today for most banks, probably a month, 2 months, and you're a banker, you can probably say what that is. But for a crypto exchange or for a digital asset company, it's still about 2 weeks or 3 weeks. We want to bring that down to less than 2 minutes. That's the goal that we have. And this is the stuff that we're working on now. And we do all of our fiat transaction monitoring, all of our scoring for every wallet, every single transaction. The way that people actually look at risk in a stablecoin payment world today is very different. They look at it the same way that they look at SWIFT. So they look at the sender and the receiver based on the profile of these two customers when they first onboarded. But in the blockchain world, you can see so much more. You can see the crypto, you can see the sender, the receiver, and the wallets. So we scan all that stuff in real time, and every transaction going to the Fuse network is given a dynamic scoring. And this is all done by agents now, right? So there's no actual humans who are looking at this stuff. And this is just the beginning, right? We believe there's a lot more to come. And we're actually looking at building entire teams that are just multiple bots. And then you have a human that coordinates and manages all that, right? The new phrase out there right now is not KYC or KYB, but it's KYA, know your agent. So at some point, we know that companies will develop agents. They will come to us to onboard their agent who will be doing specific transactions in a blockchain. So, I mean, we can talk about this a completely different session, but it's moving very fast.
But as a CEO, some mornings or nights, do you also see AI as a threat? Because some other people they can also build something in 2 minutes, right? Do you see it as a threat or an opportunity?
Yeah, I think it's both, right? So the one very cool chart that I saw on like Twitter was if you think back just a couple of years ago, let's say 2021, right after right after COVID. The building of a product or the building of an app was always so much effort, but then the go-to-market was so much easier. And now it's completely flipped. You can code an app. I think Faisal actually coded an app on his flight. You can actually code an app very, very quickly, but then the go-to-market is so difficult because you have 1,000 people you have 1,000 companies, which are sometimes one person or 2 people who are building the exactly same thing, right? So it's not so much AI itself, but it's the ability and the capabilities that it creates, and it really reduces the landscape, right? The competitive landscape. So you have to find a way to use it, but you also have to think and move a lot faster than everybody else.
Amazing. Faisal, in your personal usage, which one you prefer to use? There are tons of different AI platforms: Claude, Gemini, ChatGPT. Which one is your favorite?
So from my side, I use Cloud and Gemini. Gemini because our platform sits on Google Cloud, hence all our data sits there. It becomes efficient to do that. But I'm more fascinated by the output and the outcomes of Cloud. So I've been working on the Cloud, the coding platform. Been seeing how it works. And yes, I do have a small pet project, which I'll show you later on.
I will invest.
Yes. It's a game changer. So yeah, I think on Cloud Code, that's been a fascinating experience. But then also in terms of looking at finance, I think that the modeling capabilities of Cloud is incredible. And we've been using that a lot.
I cannot disagree on this. Really, Claude is something different. And the last questions, right? How do you see Turkey, as an environment, there are tons of, really, valuable people, talent, companies, here. As an investor, from Abu Dhabi, how do you see Turkey?
So what I tell people is typically when you go to any founder or investor in the UAE, the common story is that a founder starts in the UAE to solve a problem. They reach a certain scale, do pilots, but then they think about scale because the UAE market is not as big as some other countries. That gives them that scale. And usually people think about how can I go to Saudi or Egypt for that scale. That's always been the norm in the past. But with the experience of software portco, especially in fintech and Fuse, Turkey became the obvious choice. So after the UAE, we see Turkey as being the most attractive market when it comes to growth because of scale, because of the desire to adopt new products, innovation. Talent pool is quite deep, and hence that's why we're spending more and more time in Turkey. And we're quite interested to see if there are founders to invest in here and companies to back. I am fascinated by the size and the excitement of the people here.
Amazing. Mo, I know you underline this B2B payment thing, right? But you also work tons of different banks from different jurisdictions, especially in the UAE.
Yeah.
I don't remember how many banks you guys work with.
Yeah.
And working with the banks, as a old banker, I can understand. It's sometimes it's a bit difficult. But at the same time, the potential is big, for the banks as well, right? I'm talking about, any kind of digital banks, traditional banks.
Yeah.
What can you recommend, to the banks, especially because, when they look at, the digital assets, they look at, sometimes, only from one angle, right?
Yeah.
It's not only on-ramp, off-ramp thing, it's more than that.
Yeah.
And especially, what we have been discussing, B2B payments, cross-borders are becoming extremely important, settlements. What will be your recommendation, to the banks?
Yeah, look, so we want everyone to think of Fuse as not a single product, but very, very much a platform. We work with banks to innovate different products. The idea is that if JP Morgan and Citibank and Goldman and all these guys are already in digital assets, you should be there as well, right? There's definitely something there. If the most conservative and the biggest banks in the world are going this direction, Turkish banks have to speed up and have to go there as well. Your customers are there. Your customers are trading on exchanges. Your customers on the corporate side are using stable coins for global settlement. So the banks should also be looking at this. And it's a great way to capture additional customers, retain some of the customers, and generate more revenue and profits. We also have a full consulting arm who will sit down with banks. We will design the use cases, figuring out the regulatory and the compliance. And we want to work with the banks here and figure out what makes the most sense. Some of the banks are more interested in stablecoin payments, some of them in crypto wealth, some of them in lending against Bitcoin. So we support all these use cases.
Last one, because we got 2 minutes right now. What will be your recommendation to the new entrepreneurs, that they are building, today the new digital asset platforms, or AI? I mean, your recommendations, to them.
Whether it's blockchain, AI, or with any new technology, just to think about what are the outcomes that could achieve basically the first customer or efficiencies or revenue. So to think less about the technology, but more about the outcomes.
Yeah.
I see a lot of founders focus so much on technology and selling the technology, which is probably the right thing to do, but your customer won't hear, why should they spend more time with you? So the more that you're able to showcase the outcomes, the better shot you have at fundraising and being successful.
Yeah, that's a great point. And it's because what happens these days is that the market's moving so fast. A product today becomes a feature tomorrow. So you really have to solve for something, and something big enough. That's a big problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
You want to add something, guys?
Yeah, I think just from our side. So we're very excited on Turkey. We have an amazing team here. We have 15 super talented people. Very excited to work with everybody here in the room. We're in the licensing process, but we do operate now. We have the permission to, and happy to partner and happy to work with everybody in the room.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Deniz.